Hello, Monroe Township. I'm your proud mayor, Stephen Dalina. I'm glad you're tuning in for this special segment of the Mayor Dalina Show. It's dedicated to the heart and soul of our town, our veterans. Today, I'm honored to be joined by someone who truly exemplifies service to country and community, Monroe's very own state commander of the VFW, Yvonne Zirrith. Yvonne, welcome so much to the Mayor Dalina Show. So glad we can spend a little bit of time together just chatting. For today's segment, I want to obviously got to talk about you because you have a story to tell for sure. But I also want to focus on the VFW, your commitment to the VFW, your leadership of the VFW, and how it affects veterans not only here in our community, but the state and nationally speaking. So, Yvonne, I'd love to hear a little bit of, and for you to share some of your background, your story. What's the Yvonne Zirrith story? We'd love to hear it.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for having me this morning. I'm so honored to be here and talk to you. So I actually grew up in Piscataway, New Jersey. I went to Mount St. Mary Academy High School and joined the Navy January of my senior year of high school in 1990.
Wow.
So I actually was in the Navy before I even graduated high school.
Wow.
I left a week after graduation for boot camp in Orlando, Florida at the young age of 17. And then after boot camp, I was sent to...
Well, so listen, I'd like to focus a little bit on your segue right from high school into the service. Mm-hmm. Was it something that it was instilled into you earlier in your life? What led to that decision?
My father grew up in going to military schools.
Okay.
So my father's actually from Colombia, South America. Mm-hmm. I'm the firstborn in the United States.
Wow.
So my father went to military school his whole life. So we were raised in a very military-like household.
Okay.
So at the age of 17, having gone to an all-girl Catholic high school, Mount St. Mary's, I knew that the discipline is something I really wanted to continue with.
Understandable.
So of course my parents wanted me to go to college. They were not thrilled that I was enlisting in the Navy at the age of 17, so I actually needed their signature and their approval on the contracts. But I promised my father that I would get my degree and I would make a life and a career out of the Navy. So he agreed, and my parents signed for me while I was in high school.
Wow.
And so I left a week after graduation in May of 1990. I left for boot camp in Orlando.
Wow.
And once I finished boot camp, I was still 17.
Yeah. And
got to Gulfport, Mississippi to become one of the very first female Seabees.
Wow.
So the Seabees, as you know, it actually stands for construction battalions. They were created during World War II and then 1942. And they were all the construction for the war. All made of tradesmen and civilians who were actually enlisted into the Navy to create the Seabees, right? So that's what they're called. I became one of the first females allowed to go to CB school in Gulfport, Mississippi. There was 5 of us, 5 young girls in our barracks building, basically. And if we did not complete the CB school, the 6 months of training, which then followed on with 3 weeks of combat school to complete CB, training, they were not going to allow any other females to be CBs in the Navy, in the U.S. Navy. Similar to when they first allowed females to be on submarines and on ships. We were the trailblazers. I actually turned 18 in my time in my school in Gulfport, Mississippi. And at 18, then I went off to be a CB. I moved ammunition in bunkers. I was a heavy equipment operator, operating bulldozers and forklifts and front-end loaders, and that was my specialty in the Navy, equipment operator, CB.
So all of this activity, is it going on domestically, or are you overseas? Where are you while you're doing this?
So my active duty time was mostly domestic. Okay. I was in Little Creek, Virginia. I was down at Lakehurst, at moving ammo in the bunkers at Lakehurst. So my time enlisted, my first years of active duty were actually here locally in the United States, domestic. And then I decided to continue on. I finished active duty 6 years later, stayed in the reserves, and then continued in the reserves. I'm still in the reserves today, 35 years later.
Wow.
I finished out my time as a CB, and in 2009 became a Mustang officer. I applied to be selected for a commission to go from enlisted, what they call Mustangs, to go from an enlisted to an officer in the Navy.
Wow.
We're called Mustangs because they say they never take the wild out of the system, right? So when you're enlisted, you're untamed, and then you become an officer, and so they call Mustang officers.
Wow.
That's the story behind when you go from enlisted to officer.
Yeah.
So I actually got selected as an anti-terrorism security officer in 2009. I actually got commissioned right here at Forest Gate Country Club.
Oh my gosh.
I used the ballroom. My parents changed my jacket from my enlisted to my officer. My husband and children changed my cover, my hat, from the enlisted to officer. So it was a very, beautiful ceremony right here in Forest Gate Country Club. So when I came home, I actually moved into Monroe Township in 2003. And my children, Caitlin and Jackson, were young, very young babies at the time. Were actually born, raised here in town. Both of them went through the school system in town. They both graduated here from Monroe High School and went off to go to Penn State and do great things in life. But I actually left for deployment to Iraq in August of 2003.
Okay.
And that was 2 weeks before Caitlin started kindergarten at Barclay Brook.
Wow.
So I actually met with the teacher. The teacher did me a favor and met with me at Barclay Brook School 2 weeks before kindergarten actually started.
Wow.
So that she can meet with me before I deployed, and I can, give her the address. I don't remember her name, but she was an amazing teacher. Caitlin's kindergarten year, she actually sent me to Iraq Caitlin's drawings, her artwork from kindergarten to me in the field out in Iraq. So it was really great. Monroe has been an amazing school system. The teachers have been amazing. The kids have thrived here, even though I've deployed multiple times while living here in town. I still live here in town, and the township has been amazing. It's embraced the life of a veteran, the life of the military. I just got back in 2019 from another year-long deployment, and I live in Woods Edge, and the development actually brought in the fire trucks, and my neighbors all put out flags for my welcome home, and so it's the township here has really embraced, and they really do value. You really do value veterans, and I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, God, geez, you've touched upon so many beautiful things. This family, the commitment to service. But touching upon how we want to ensure the veterans of our town get that respect that they truly deserve, and I've always, when I'll give speeches at veterans events or Memorial Day, I always say that veterans in this town are citizens of Monroe, but they're citizens with distinction. Truly, and you exemplify that, and obviously, and having known you and your family for years, and coaching with Dan, recreation and stuff like that, I'm just to learn a little bit more about, how you got to do what you got to do is truly inspiring, and I'm glad that you've had that, you've embraced that spirit that we want to make sure that veterans here feel, all veterans. So, with that being said, I'd like to segue to, the task that you've taken on now, state commander of the VFW. So I'd like to know a little bit about your involvement with the VFW, how you kind of got involved, why you got involved, because obviously there are numerous organizations for veterans, right? But to focus on the VFW, which again I think is so important here in Monroe Township that we do have a strong VFW, I'd like to know how you got involved, what led you to be involved with the VFW, and then obviously your ascension into leadership. So I'd like to know a little bit about that, and then we'll start talking globally speaking about VFW and what they do. So a little, again, that combination of you and your current position. Okay,
great. Thank you, Mayor. So I was actually found, I never even knew the VFW existed. So after my first deployment, I was walking into Mendokers formerly, here in town, beautiful bakery.
Yep.
I was walking into Mendorca's with my U.S. Navy ball cap on, and there was a gentleman there, an older gentleman, actually doing the poppies, giving out the poppies, right? So what you're wearing on your lapel, sir.
I'm representing, so it's all
Thank
good.
you. So he was actually handing out poppies, and he approached me as I walked into Mendorca's, and he said, are you a veteran? And I said, yes, I am. And he said, would you like to join the VFW? I had never heard of it before. This is in 2005 when I got home from Iraq the first time. And it was Jerry Setzer. He was actually the post commander for the VFW here in Monroe Township. And he brought me to my first meeting at the VFW. So I'm not sure if you know the history. So our VFW post was the municipal building, which is now.
Yep.
So 40 years ago, that was actually our post building, and they sold the building to the township and is now converted to the township's municipal building. So as a result, we meet at the recreation center. So I went to my first meeting at the recreation center in 2005, and I sat quietly in the back of the room, looking at all these veterans, just in awe. I know I had just gotten back from Iraq, but just, listening to them and listening to the meeting. And this one older gentleman sat holding a rock. He had a stone in his hand. And he just rubbed the stone the whole meeting. At the end of the meeting, I approached him, and he was an older gentleman. And I said to him, I go, what is the rock? What does this mean to you? And he said to me, he goes, this is a rock from the beaches of Normandy. I've had it with me since I got back.
Wow.
And that was what drew me to stay in the VFW, to learn more about this organization, to understand the sacrifices that all of these servicemen and women from every service, every branch of service, and to really embrace the meaning of the VFW. And to give back to the community where I can and stay involved in at least the Monroe Township VFW back then. That's all I knew before I knew about the national stage and that it has.
So, an amazing story, Yvonne, truly. And again, I can't help but to just take pause, right? How lucky we are here, especially in Monroe Township, to have somebody like Cy Lipper, 99-year-old Cy Lipper, World War II vet, to you. I mean, it just, I truly hope that this particular segment inspires others to rise up and join the VFW, because now I want to know a little bit about the VFW and the benefits of it, what they present here in Monroe Township, some of the things. Now, I know just a week or two ago, there was a spaghetti dinner that I was very happy to bring my family and sit with your family and break bread with you and a number of the other veterans involved. Now, obviously, and that was even, I enjoyed myself even getting served by Miles Capiello. I had to throw Miles a little dig in there. So, but it was such a wonderful event, and obviously, there's a financial component, right? Fundraising. So,
right.
So in regards to the monies that get accepted, and what's the end result? What happens here locally that the VFW can provide some of our other veterans?
Okay. Monroe Township VFW, for many years since I've been involved, we actually raise funds to give back to all the veterans, not just in Monroe, but also locally in the area. So there are there are actually more than 4, but there's several VA-run nursing homes around the state of New Jersey. So they essentially are for the veterans and their spouses who can stay there, and they're allowed to stay at these nursing homes. So Menlo Park has one. There's one up in Lyons. There's so we have different vet havens, as they call them, also, right? Essentially, the VFW posts come together to raise money across the state, but to give back to these veterans in these facilities. So they have bingo on a weekly basis at every of these facilities. It costs $150 to have a bingo event at one of these facilities each time they have it, for the prizes for the veterans and their spouses who stay there, the residents, for the food that gets given to them that day. They get something different than what's on the menu. And during the winter time, we'll many of the posts, like I know Monroe Township does, we provide socks and holiday gifts and toiletries, and we'll buy them that blanket that says U.S. Army veteran on it, and we'll buy them the things that will make their lives better as they are residents in these facilities. So we raise money to give back to veterans and to also to the different organizations. So we will give back to the local Boy Scouts for them to have their ceremonies for the ceremonies for the flags when they're old and torn. We give back to the community for different sporting events and for the students, and we try and make sure that we stay involved to foster the patriotism within the schools, for the students, for our community. That's so very important for us.
That is truly what you call a win-win. And again, just hearing you, what goes on, right? What you do, that it's a two-way street, and we give to you, but oh my gosh, do you give back to the community? And it is truly inspiring. I'd like to take the VFW now, and I want to get a little larger with it, right? Just not Monroe Township. Regarding the VFW, obviously statewide, which you're the commander, but nationally speaking, some of the larger concerns regarding the veterans here in the United States. Are you seeing any legislation, or is there any the wind blowing a certain direction in regards to maybe membership? So I'd like your take on maybe a larger global picture of the VFW.
Okay. The VFW was actually formed in 1899 after the Spanish-American War, and it was created to make sure that the veterans from that war were taken care of. Their needs, their families were taken care of. We are now in 126 years of history.
Wow. And
over those years, we have evolved into a very modern organization, taking care of the veterans nationally. We actually have a VFW chapter in Europe.
Wow.
So the veterans who now live overseas have, support system. But here, nationally, the VFW goes to Washington, D.C. We advocate for veterans' rights. We advocate for their benefits that they deserve, that they've rightfully earned. And then we ensure that the benefits that are already now in place remain, right? Nothing gets taken away from them. So we have our National Commander-in-Chief, Carol Whitmore, will actually go to Washington, D.C. in March when we have our National Legislative conference. It's a 3-day conference in Washington, D.C., and she'll speak before Congress, and she'll ensure, there's different bills that we have in progress that we want to make sure that nationally it gets passed, and
so important.
The benefits get given to the veterans that they deserve. And again, there's all these new veterans, National Guard, that our New Jersey National Guard that just deployed last year. Monroe Township adopted several of those guardsmen and sent them numerous packages. So from a local, state level, the New Jersey VFW has taken care of those National Guard members and gave them welcome homes when they got home. There was a dozen welcome home events that the New Jersey VFW supported and promoted, and we provided resources for the families and to those veterans from when they came back, right? And then on a national level, we make sure that all the veterans are taken care of with their benefits and resources, from mental health screenings and the help that they need for their families when they come back.
Again, inspiring, Yvonne. So I want to start wrapping things up here, and I'm gonna bring it back to you in a particular moment here. So we talk about pride, and then we've used that word. So as the proud mayor, there was a couple years ago, I happened to be watching, I think it was the World Series game, and they had the national anthem, and out comes Yvonne Zirrith to sing the national anthem. What's up with that?
So I actually started singing the national anthem when I was in Mount St. Mary's, when I was in high school.
Wow.
So I was in the chorale, in the group. And when I joined the Navy, I offered my services when I got through my training to various bases and organizations where I was deployed and where I was stationed. And so I've been singing since 1990.
Wow.
Singing the national anthem. I've been invited to sing for Mets Yankee games, Subway Series game, that probably Jets games, football games in the local area. And I've actually sang on the Battleship New Jersey for promotion ceremonies for sailors, friends of mine.
Wow.
So it's been an honor. It's been very exciting side gig, as you say, right? So love doing it. For me, it's a passion, especially since the national anthem should always be sung the traditional way the way it was written, right? And it's an honor for me to sing it the way it was written, to make sure that it's honored and the tradition of the song itself and the history of it, right? Yeah. So we keep it the way it is.
It's beautiful.
And it just, I think it's better to be sung than played. So whenever it's, it comes across my way, I always volunteer and I always make sure I do it. Whether I'm wearing my police uniform, as you know, I'm a sergeant at the Sheriff's Department, or I'm wearing the Navy dress blues uniform, I'm very happy and very proud to sing the national anthem.
Alrighty, Yvonne, as we wrap up things here, tell me, there are important events, important dates that the veterans of our town, the state, nation, watching this on YouTube, what's going on?
So as you know, the VFW is very involved patriotically with students and the youth of our country. And so some of the things we have going on right now, deadline being October 31st, is the Voice of Democracy. Voice of Democracy is for the high school students to articulate, make an essay, and actually do a video, essentially talking about their patriotism and how they help the veteran community. And then there's also the Patriots Pen. Patriots Pen is the middle school. So it's all an essay contest. So the grand prize for the Voice of Democracy is $35,000 scholarship for a high school student, right? And the Patriots Pen, which is for the middle schoolers, which is just an essay, there's a $5,000 scholarship for the winner. We also have the teachers. The teachers are being appreciated, and so any teacher can be nominated by their school system, by another civilian in town, and so the Veterans of Foreign Wars wants to honor the teachers that bring civics and patriotism to the schools and to the students.
Amazing.
So that's all deadlines of October 31st. Those are actually coming up. The information is actually at the rec center. So I've posted everything at the rec center, and it's also on the VFWNJ.org website regarding these scholarship programs that are due now, October 31st. And now, as we know, November is Veterans Day. November 11th, the 11th month of the 11th hour, 11th day, right? So of November is always Veterans Day, and that's where we honor veterans all across the country, around the world. And so I know you're having an event that day at Avenue K Park. So I want to just make sure that everyone in town is aware and attends. And that is a day to honor and remember. It's not Memorial Day, it's Veterans Day. It's a day to honor and celebrate the veterans across the world.
So very true. Thank you again, Yvonne. So thank you not just for being here today, but for your tireless service to our veterans in our town. You truly represent the best of Monroe to all veterans listening. And again, this is going to be on YouTube. It's going to be a larger audience, but if you ever need support, please know there's a strong community right here in Monroe to stand by your side. For more information about the VFW, please visit vfw.org. And for the rest of us, let's certainly continue to support our veterans. Come out on Veterans Day, come out to all the events throughout the year. As mentioned, we hold our annual Veterans Day ceremony of observance November 11th, Veterans Park on Avenue K. We also host an annual Veterans Day celebration at our Senior Center for all those who have served. Again, we also treat our veterans to military-themed movies throughout the year, usually late April. And of course, we remember all who made that ultimate sacrifice to the service of our country at our annual Memorial Day observance and wreath-laying ceremonies in May at Veterans Park. We look forward to seeing you at one of the upcoming events. We are certainly honor our veterans, and if you are a veteran living in Monroe and want more information about any and all of these activities, please contact our Veterans Liaison, Harold Klein, at the following phone number, 732-521-4400, and that's extension 135. I believe I speak for every Monroe resident when I say thank you to all who serve our country in every branch, past, present, and future.